Okay guys, our lesson here, we're going to go ahead and start with lesson 7.1. In our lesson today, our I can statement is that we should be able to write and interpret inequalities, then graph the solutions here in some of these situations we're going to talk about here. So in this case, there's a game called Number Squeeze where you're trying to find numbers and you get hints and then you make guesses. So we're going to look at those situations here to write some inequalities and show the solution set and graph it. So we've got a couple of clues here, and then we're going to write the inequality, and again, get this into that math algebra language and what it looks like, and then figure out what would the solutions be, all of the solutions for this inequality and for this situation, and give some examples here. Okay, so the mystery number, okay, we're going to use variable y to represent this mystery number here. So here's our first clue. The sum of y and 3 is less than 4. So we got to get that into an inequality, and we know that means greater than or less than, or greater than and equal to, or less than and equal to. So in this case, the sum we know means add of y and 3. So I'm going to add y and 3. And that sum, it says, is less than 4. So we use my inequality there. Y plus 3 is less than 4. And since we're on this one, let's go ahead and talk about the solution set and all the numbers that can make this true. And in this case, a lot of times we could do some trial and error and plug some numbers in here, but sometimes that's not always efficient as some of the problems get a little bit harder here. So usually what we like to do is, like we learned in our last unit, I'll move my work up here, we want to try and isolate that variable. If we get y by itself, it'll tell us more easily the solutions there. So if I know on one side, if I'm adding 3 to it, to undo that and do the inverse operations, I subtract 3. And that's like it never happened. So it just leaves me with y. And I know what I do to one side, I must do to the other to keep it in the same relationship. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3 here. So in this case, y, 4 minus 3 is 1, y has to be less than 1. Okay, so I'm going to actually write that in here for my inequality. I could say y is less than 1. It's a simpler way to say that. And now it's in a form that makes it very easy to tell me all the answers that make this true. Don't forget, a solution set has to have its braces on the outside. And I would say any number less than 1. Because y has to be less than 1. So any number less than 1 is my solution set. So that would be very easy to graph. All right, so let's look at the second clue, kind of to see where our numbers might be for this mystery number. The second clue is the number y is greater than -4. So that one's a little simpler than that one. The number y, so we'll say y is greater than, so it's bigger than, open mouth towards the y, it's greater than -4. So my solution set would then be any number, let's use the number symbol there, any number greater than -4. Any number greater than -4 would make that true. Okay, so now I need to graph both of these. I know it has to be bigger than -4. So if I go down here, I know this is -4. If I label these, make sure they're labeled correctly. Just going by ones there, pretty easy to see that. All right, so any number, let's start with this one, bigger than -4. I know I have to put an open circle around it because it can't be equal to -4. It has to be greater than, so that's just where I start from. And at the same time, it has to be less than. We know y has to be less than 1. Again, open circle on 1. Has to be less. So it's any number less than 1 and any number greater than -4. So we shade in everything in between here and we connect. Any number in here could be that mystery number. Okay, any number between 1 and -4. So when I have 3 numbers that y could be, I can make this very simple here. It could be anybody here, so it could be 0. Okay, it could be -2. It could be -3. Okay, it could be -2.5. I could write lots of them. Okay, -1.5, half, 1/4. Okay, there's lots of them that it could be there. Okay, so our job today is, again, to be able to get the clues, or in some situation, and write them as inequalities, what they'd look like as math, and then give me the solution set and graph it. And we'll do some practice slides and do some samples, seeing if we can do these for different situations.